Okay, good morning all of you. Any questions from yesterday's class? So the next topic is torsion. Okay. Yesterday, in a way, we try to learn how to design for shear. That is for direct shear. Okay. And shear also arises because of torsion. So, and RC members are proven to undergo or subjected to this torsion, and we'll see in brief about this torsion. And also in IS 456 under limit state, we have also limit state of collapse under torsion. So only difference is going to be you will be adding some additional longitudinal reinforcement and additional transverse reinforcement. And whatever you learned as a part of limit state of collapse under shear, you learned how to calculate nominal shear stress. So same thing, same formulas or same equations can be used to estimate the nominal shear stress even when the beam is in addition to shear, if it is also subjected to torsion. And the case of only torsion occurring is going to be very rare. Okay, it may happen, but that's going to be very rare. Anyway, how to handle that is all given under this section 41 of IS 456. Let me briefly go through it before we go in detail about what are the possible situations where an RC structural member is going to be subjected to torsion, or where this torsion is going to arise. Okay, so here this discusses the earlier part of this section discusses about the section, critical section, where we need to consider all that. Okay, and maybe we can actually look at this one once. Critical section, sections located less than distance effective depth d, small d, from face of
Dr. Rao, can you please share the screen?
Okay, sorry, I think students are not okay, I don't know where I missed out. Here, limit state of collapse under torsion, it's given under section 41 of IS 456. Okay, and we looked at in the last class, we looked at how to deal with the shear, how to design for this shear, and how to calculate nominal shear stress for uniform depth beams and varying depth beams. And yesterday I demonstrated through several examples how to analyze the to get the shear capacity of the section, or how to design this shear reinforcement once you know the shear force that is coming at a particular section. Okay, so all those concepts we need to carry forward when we are designing for torsion. An RC section subjected to torsion is going to be like torque is going to result in additional shear stress. So we need to estimate that, and the design, as far as design is concerned, for this torsion we are going to provide some additional longitudinal reinforcement and additional transverse reinforcement, or stirrups, additional stirrups. Okay, and now coming to the details of it, it is given in section 41 of IS 456, and where exactly this under what situation an RC member is going to be subjected to torsion, we'll see in a while. But before that, let's go and note down whatever is given under this section 41. of IS 456. Okay. So let's read this. Sections located less than a distance small d, which is nothing but effective depth, from the face of the support may be designed for the same torsion as computed at a distance d, where d is the effective depth. So we need to consider a section at a distance effective depth. That is critical section for the forces or the stresses or the things that are coming at that section we are going to design. And when you have only the shear force at a particular section, then you know how to estimate the nominal shear stress. But in addition to the direct shear, you also have this torsion. So the torque or torsional moment is denoted with this TU. So you need to find an equivalent shear. Equivalent shear as per IS 456 is given in using, it can be calculated using this relation. This is your VU is your direct shear that you analyze a beam and get the shear force bending moment. That shear force is this VU, and TU is the torsional moment that is applied on the RC section, in addition to the regular loads or the transverse loads. In addition to transverse loads, it's also subjected to torsional moment. That moment estimate is this one, TU. So when you have TU, and in addition to this direct shear, how to get the equivalent shear? That is given by this relation. The details of it, how this relation is obtained and other things, maybe you will be learning as a part of your advanced courses. Okay. Within the scope of this course, as well as the time constraint that we have, the time is not going to permit us to go in detail how this is obtained and other things. So let's go and see what code is recommending. Let's go and design, learn to design as per the codal recommendations. So equivalent shear needs to be estimated using this relation. Once you know the torsional moment, and VU is your direct shear, and you get the equivalent shear VE, and using VE, you go back and calculate what is the nominal shear stress. So when the beam is subjected to torsion, nominal shear stress is calculated using this relation, except that VU, instead of VU, wherever is there, replace with VE. Here also, if it is for uniform depth, use this. If it is varying depth, use this relation. Any questions? And once you get this nominal shear stress, rest of the procedure is going to be same. Rest of the procedure is going to be same as far as shear reinforcement is concerned. As far as shear reinforcement is concerned, except we need to check for minimum shear reinforcement that we need to provide, and those things we'll see in subsequent, as we progress in today's class. So once you get equivalent shear, okay, once you get equivalent shear, you proceed as you do for whatever we studied yesterday in yesterday's class. That is what is mentioned here. The equivalent nominal shear stress in this case shall be calculated. It shall be calculated using whatever relations that I showed you in section 40.1, except for VU, except for substituting VU with VE. Okay, and the values of tau VE shall not exceed the values of tau Cmax. Please note that in yesterday's class, the notation is tau V for nominal shear stress. Here, since we are using equivalent shear, this notation is also slightly changed. Tau VE is nothing but equivalent nominal shear stress. Okay, and if equivalent nominal shear stress does not exceed tau c, which is given in table 19, minimum shear reinforcement shall be provided. That we also noted yesterday, even when we don't have torsional reinforcement. And one more thing, when tau VE, equivalent nominal shear stress, exceeds tau c, both longitudinal and transverse reinforcement shall be provided. Okay, so why this additional longitudinal reinforcement has to be provided? That it will be clear to you once we see in detail in the subsequent whatever we are going to cover. And reinforcement in members subjected to torsion. So now we calculated equivalent shear. So let's proceed further what code is giving in section 41. Reinforcement for torsion when required shall consist of longitudinal and transverse reinforcement. Transverse reinforcement is nothing but your stirrups. And how to calculate longitudinal reinforcement? You already have your bending moment because of the transverse loads, and because of torsion, additional contribution is going to come for design purpose. Additional contribution is also calculated because of torsion. So that is what is given here. Let's go through it. The longitudinal reinforcement shall be designed to resist equivalent bending moment. Equivalent shear is denoted with VE. Equivalent bending moment is denoted here. It is ME1 is used. There is a reason for it. You will be understanding in a while. Equivalent bending moment is given by MU. MU is nothing but bending moment at the cross section. And MT is arising because of shear. Because of torsion. Torsional moment that is applied. Because of that, this equivalent moment because of that is given by this. Again, this relation, how this is obtained, the details maybe you will be learning as a part of your advanced courses. Okay, so MT gives you additional bending moment contribution because of the applied torque, a torsional moment, which is going to depend on your geometric or the overall depth as well as width of the section. Okay, and this 1.7 and other things, it's all coming from mechanics for a particular section and other things. Details maybe you will be learning in your advanced courses. Okay, so this is the equivalent bending moment. You need to design your longitudinal reinforcement for this. Let's go and see the subsequent things. TU is the torsional moment. D is overall depth of beam. B is width of the or breadth of the beam. That is how you need to calculate your equivalent bending moment. And also you need to do some checking. This is the moment to which you need to provide your longitudinal reinforcement. This is the moment to which you need to provide your longitudinal reinforcement. You know the relations for, once you know the moment, design moment, you know how to calculate the area of steel. For a rectangular section, you go back and see limit state under flexure. Limit state under flexure, let me show you. So these relations, all these relations, where is that limit state? Sorry, annexure G. So all this, once you get equivalent bending moment, you use these relations. Rest of the procedure is what you already learned. Okay. Any questions here? And now you need to do one more check. There is a reason why ME1 is used here. That is given here. If the we have two contributions to the equivalent moment. One is from the torsion that is applied, another is from the bending moment due to the transverse load. Now you need to do a small check. If the numerical value without sign, okay, forget about sign, if numerical value of MT exceeds the value of MU, longitudinal reinforcement shall be provided on the flexural compression face also, such that the beam can also withstand an equivalent moment ME2 given by the difference between these two, MT minus MU. So once you calculate MT, you need to check whether MT is less than MU or not. If MT is not less than MU, then you need to find the difference, MT minus MU, and whatever the difference, for that you need to design additional steel, and that has to be provided on the compression face. The moment ME2 being taken as acting in the opposite sense to the moment MU. Okay. Anyway, once we go through the these examples, you will understand better. So this is about how to take care of the bending moment, additional bending moment that is coming because of this applied torque or torsional moment. In addition to that, you need to also take care of this shear. You just calculated equivalent shear, and now let's discuss about the transverse reinforcement. Two-legged closed loop, closed hoops enclosing the corner longitudinal bars shall have an area of cross section given by. Here, shear reinforcement requirement is given in terms of area of the stirrups, area of cross section of the this transverse reinforcement. And this, please take a note of this relation. Please take a note of this relation. Please take a note of this relation. And this relation, if you rearrange it, it's going to have a similar form as this one. It looks similar, okay? It looks similar. That's the reason I asked you to take a note of it. Anyway, transverse reinforcement, when the beam is subjected to torsion, in addition to direct shear, you need to provide area, or you need to calculate area of steel using this relation. You can see here on the this side, TU is nothing but your torsional moment. VU is the shear that is coming at that particular section. And what is this additional? These quantities, two quantities, additional quantities are appearing in this relation that you need to make a note. B1 and D1. What is this B1 and D1 that you need to pay attention to here? B1 is nothing but center to center distance between the corner bars in the direction of width. And D1 is center to center distance between the corner bars in the depth direction. Okay. So now you know what is B. B is width of the section or breadth of the section. B1 is nothing but center to center distance between the corner bars, corner rebars in the width direction, and D1 is the same thing in the depth direction. So that is what you need to pay attention to in this relation, and rest of the things are all self-explanatory. And this is the area of steel, and also minimum area of steel, but the transverse reinforcement shall not be less than this value. transverse reinforcement shall not be less than tau V E minus tau C using this relation. Okay, so this is how you need to design additional transverse reinforcement and also additional longitudinal reinforcement if required on the compression phase as well when the RC member is subjected to torsional moment. Professor Amlan, you want to add something at this stage?
Okay, let me just say that the analysis of torsion is actually very complicated. After cracking, there is redistribution of stresses, and the beam behaves like a three-dimensional space truss. But in order to simplify the design, the code has adopted a simplified approach where the effect of torsion is taken care of by increasing the design moment and the design shear. And whatever expressions you are seeing, these will be used just as you have used for conventional flexure and shear design. Okay.
And to add that, just now Professor Amlan mentioned, to understand this torsion or the philosophy behind all that, you need to take an advanced course. Okay. But as far as this course is concerned, we'll strictly go with whatever is given in the codal classes. So now let's briefly understand what is this torsion, how this RC member, where there is a possibility of reinforced concrete members being subjected to torsion. Okay, so let's understand that in brief. In reinforced concrete members, torsion generally occurs in combination with flexure and transverse shear. Pure torsion, like that in metallic shafts, rarely develops in reinforced concrete. Several investigations have revealed the complex behavior of interaction between flexure, shear, and torsion. Based on experimental investigations, national codes prescribe simplified procedures combining the significant aspects of theoretical consideration and experimental results. So this is what? This is the point which Professor Amlan just mentioned. Okay. And if you want to do advanced studies or do some research in this area, you need to understand, you need to go and understand all these whatever the interaction between flexure, shear, and torsion. So now let's understand where are the possible locations or possibilities under which RC member is going to be subjected to torsion. Several types of loading produce torsion in reinforced concrete structural elements. The resultant torsion is classified under two main groups. So torsion, as far as the reinforced concrete members are concerned, can be classified into two categories. One is equilibrium torsion, also called primary torsion. Equilibrium torsion or primary torsion, or compatibility torsion or secondary torsion. Okay. So what is this equilibrium torsion or primary torsion? What is that? Let's see that few examples. Irrespective of whether it is torsion is arising because of this equilibrium or compatibility, we need to estimate the torsional moment, and the design, as far as design is concerned, it's should be as per whatever we discussed just now. Just for completeness or to understand how this torsion is going to arise in RC members, we are discussing all this. The primary or equilibrium torsion is induced by eccentric loading. When the load is eccentric, or let me show you some examples that you will understand better. Suppose you have a beam here and you have a like a cantilever slab or something like that, canopy. So this beam is going to be subject because this load is going to be eccentric with respect to the CG of the beam. So beam is going to be subjected to some torsional moment or torque. It's going to be subjected to torque. Similarly, in this kind of for architectural considerations, you may be going with this kind of curved beam or something like that. It's written as bow girder, and it is supported here and here. It's also going to be subjected to, because this entire load of this is going to act eccentric with respect to the centroid of these supports. Okay, so it's also going to result in torque, which is nothing but it is arising because of equilibrium. And similarly, in this kind of situation, in this kind of layout, okay, when you have this kind of beam and slab layout, the extreme or the last beam is going to be subjected to torsion or torque. So these are examples of few examples of equilibrium torsion. So that is what is mentioned. Primary or equilibrium torsion is induced by eccentric loading. Common examples being cantilevers, beam with slab, bow girder, and L beams. Okay, this is in brief. Okay, loading on these elements, whatever we have just seen, loading on these elements, developing torsion is shown in figure, whatever we have seen. In all these cases, loading is eccentric to the line of reaction at the supports. The total torsion is equally distributed to the support sections. Support sections equilibrium or primary torsion is induced by eccentric loading, and equilibrium conditions are sufficient to estimate the torsional moment. Okay, so let's see what is a secondary torsion, or let me show you first some example, then you will understand better. Suppose you have a grid of beams like this, and this is a beam, and this is another beam, and these two beams, these beams are main beams. These two beams are main beams. CD and FE or EF are the main beams. These two main beams are connected to each other by a secondary beam. That secondary beam is AB. Secondary beam is AB. When the secondary beam undergoes bending, or it deflects like this because of the applied transverse load on this beam. If while deflecting like this, what this beam is trying to do, it is trying to pull these main beams, or these main beams are going to be subjected to some torsional moment. These main beams, unless these main beams rotate like this, it will not, that will not help this secondary beam to deflect in this manner. And so this torsion is arising because of the compatibility between this main beam and secondary beam. So that's why this torsion is classified as compatibility torsion. Is it clear? Any questions here? What is compatibility torsion? A situation like this, where the main beams are connected by secondary beams, and because of compatibility between the main beam and secondary beam, additional torsional moment is going to be induced in the main beam. That is what is compatibility torsion. Any questions? Anyway, irrespective of whether it is because of equilibrium torsion or compatibility torsion, an RC member is going to be subjected to torsional moment. Anyway, that is what we need to keep in mind. In compatibility torsion, torsion is induced by application of an angle of twist, such as rotation of members, and resulting torsional moment depends on the torsional stiffness of the member. A typical example of compatibility torsion is shown here, in which secondary beam AB is monolithically connected to the main beam CD. It is connected. Please note that this happens when there is a monolithic when you ensure that these two act in a monolithic manner. Okay, secondary beam is monolithically connected to the main beam CD at A and B. Beam AB rotates at the junction due to loading on AB. This beam AB rotates at this junction because of this loading, transverse loading on the secondary beam, corresponding to angle theta, theta A. Theta A is at this end is designated as A, this end is designated as B. Rotation here is denoted with theta A. Beam AB rotates at junction due to loading on AB, corresponding to angle theta A. A rotational, a torsional moment is developed at A in the beam, in the main beam CD, and a bending moment will develop at A in beam AB. Bending moment will develop in the beam AB at A, and a torsional moment is going to be developed here. In addition to that, this main beam may be subjected to some transverse load. In addition to this torsional moment, it's also going to be subjected to bending moment. Is it clear? The bending moment, whatever bending moment that is developed, will be equal to and act in a direction opposite to the torsional moment to maintain static equilibrium. The magnitude of rotation theta A and torsional and bending moments at A depends upon the torsional stiffness of beam CD as well as flexural stiffness of beam AB. Any questions? And also let's understand reinforce. Now we noted that reinforced concrete section can be subjected to primary torsion or secondary torsion, and because of that torsional moment, the reinforced concrete being subjected to torsional moment, what is going to happen? Let's see that. Torsion, the theory of torsion of prismatic homogeneous members of different types of cross section is well established, or you must have studied as a part of your mechanics of materials, at least torsion of circular sections. Okay, so let's go through this. Theory of torsion of prismatic homogeneous members of different types of cross section is well established and described in detail books of mechanics of materials. The effect of torsion is to induce shear stresses. The effect of torsion is to induce shear stresses that you must have learned as a part of your mechanics of material. When a circular cross section member is subjected to torsion, it's going to when it is subjected to torsional moment or torque, it's going to be subjected to shear stresses. Okay, so the effect of torsion is to induce shear stresses and causes warping of non-circular sections. I don't know whether you heard about this warping. Warping is nothing but, let me show you a figure, then you will understand. So here, this is a non-cross section, a non-circular cross section. This is a non-circular cross section. When you subject it to torsional moment, when you subjected this to torsional moment, you can see out of plane deformation is going to happen. Out of these plane sections will not remain plane. Out of plane deformation is going to happen. This is what is warping, and this happens in non-circular members. Non-circular members. Okay. Or let me show. Let me illustrate through one small experiment here, and I'm just taking a sheet of paper. You can see here, I'm taking a sheet of paper and I rolled it and made it into a circular cross section, like a structural element. Okay, this is nothing but a cylinder like that, a cylinder kind of thing, or a tube having circular cross section. And it is actually, please note that this end, I just rolled the sheet. You can do this kind of thing even with a steel sheet. I rolled it and made it into a circular tube. Now this end is not connected to the, or this is not welded. So it's not actually a closed section, it's an open section. So now when I take this one and try to apply torque means I need to apply twist in opposite directions at two ends. And before I apply, you see the cross section here. You see the cross section. Cross section is plane. When I apply
So
the
now
torque,
you may raise the paper bit. Yes.
so when I apply this is the original one. I just roll the sheet of paper and made it into this one, and this is an open section. So now I apply a torque, and you can see here this cross section. This is coming out of the plane. Okay, so this out of plane deformation, and this happens if this section is open section. This section is open. If I want to make it closed, what I need to do is I need to weld it, or I need to glue this. So then this warping is not going to happen. But because of that gluing, or that joint has to be designed for additional stresses that you need to keep in mind. Okay. Anyway, warping is nothing but out of plane deformation of the cross section. Out of plane deformation of the cross section when it is subjected to torque or torsional moment, and this happens for non-circular cross sections. And whatever you studied as a part of your mechanics of materials, maybe you have not considered, you must have studied only circular cross section. And the theory corresponding to the torsion of circular cross sections is what is called Saint-Venant's theory. Okay, Saint-Venant's theory is that one. Okay, so anyway, more details you may be learning as a part of advanced courses. Anyway, so now let's go through this here. The effect of torsion is to induce shear stresses and causes warping of non-circular sections. But please note that our sections in structural engineering, all our sections are going to be, or most of our sections are going to be non-circular. We are going to deal with rectangular cross sections. We are going to deal with I sections. So our sections are not going to be circular in cross section most of the time. So we need to also consider this one. Anyway, that you will be learning in advanced courses. Okay. So the effect of torsion is to induce shear stresses and causes warping of non-circular cross sections. The failure of plain concrete member in torsion is caused by torsional cracking due to diagonal tensile stresses. What this torsional moment is going to do, it's going to, when you subject the member or when you subject this cross section to this torsional moment, it induces shear stresses. And this shear stresses, yesterday or while discussing about the crack pattern, explained to you, you get your principal stresses, major principal stress, minor principal stress, and then try to find the direction of cracks using that relation tan theta is equal to minus 2 q divided by f, something like that. So same thing, once you get these stresses, due to this torsion, applied torsional moment, you find the principal stresses and then principal directions, and then you can notice that this torsion, when the plain concrete member is subjected to torsion, it is going to result in diagonal tension and tensile stresses. You can do a small experiment. You take a piece of chalk piece of chalk which is having circular cross section and apply twisting moment or torque at either end. Okay, at either end you apply the torque in opposite direction, and you see the failure. You apply the torque till the chalk breaks into two pieces, and you see the failure plane. The failure plane is going to be at almost 45 degrees, and failure is going to happen because of diagonal tension. Okay, so you do that experiment. So it's not necessary. It's only the plain concrete. Even piece of chalk you can do experiment and understand that. Okay, so the behavior of plain concrete is going to be similar to that of a chalk that I just mentioned as a part of experiment. Okay, so due to torsion, plain concrete rectangular member develops diagonal tension cracks. Like this, whatever is shown in this one. So when this RC member or this plain, forget about for a while about the reinforcement that is present. Okay, assume it to be plain concrete. This plain concrete member is subjected to torque. It's a non-cross-sectional, non-circular cross-section. This one, and the stress distribution, the torsional stress distribution is shown here. The details again, you can refer any advanced book to understand how this distribution is plotted and what is this variation of the distribution and other things. Okay, maximum torsion, maximum stress is going to happen on the this midpoint of the each of the sides, and the shear stress is going to be 0 at the corners. So this is a torsional shear distribution on a rectangular cross section, and because of this you will be, and based on this shear stress, you can actually take a small element and try to find principal stresses and then principal directions. You can notice that because this is subjected to only pure torsion, it is subjected to pure torque. You are going to have only shear stresses, no normal stresses will be there. And when there are only shear stresses, this is how the crack pattern is going to be, diagonal tension crack. Okay, and this is a small element that we discussed when we were discussing about the crack pattern and other things. So torsional shear stresses and cracks and beam of rectangular cross section. And please note that why it is mentioned only plain concrete, whereas we are actually looking at a reinforced concrete section. Please note that this steel is not going to come into effect till the section cracks. So initially the behavior of reinforced concrete section subjected to torque, reinforced concrete section subjected to torsional moment or torque, the behavior of that is going to be similar to that of a plain concrete beam of same cross section, because steel is going to come into picture only once it cracks. Okay, that you need to keep in mind. So let me complete this. Due to torsion, a plain concrete rectangular member develops diagonal tension cracks in the interfibers, leading to sudden failure of entire section due to low strength of concrete in tension. Please note that finally what is happening, this torsional moment is resulting in shear, and that shear is resulting in diagonal tension, and concrete is weak in tension. So section is going to fail in tension. To improve torsional strength of rectangular concrete sections, torsional reinforcements are generally provided in the form of longitudinal and transverse steel. The former in the form of bars distributed. So this longitudinal reinforcement is in the form of bars distributed along the periphery, cross sections close to the periphery, and the transverse reinforcement in the form of closed rectangular stirrups placed perpendicular to the axis of beam. Longitudinal reinforcement resists the tension, and transverse reinforcement is required to resist the shear. So that is the purpose. So when the beam is subjected to a torque or torsional moment, you need to calculate the additional contribution to this additional contribution to the stresses from this torsional moment. How much portion it has to be taken care by the longitudinal reinforcement, how much it has to be taken care by the transverse reinforcement. So that is the idea of showing you the relations that are given in page or under the section limit state of collapse under torsion in IS 456 before the beginning of this class. Before beginning of this class, I showed you to get you an idea about this. Okay. And now, just now I mentioned the behavior of a plain concrete member is going to be similar to reinforced concrete member before actually it cracks. Okay. So if you see this stress, instead of stress strain curve, when a member is subjected to torque or torsional moment, you can plot torque versus angle of twist. If you plot torque versus angle of twist, you take same cross section, same dimensions of cross section of a plain concrete member, structural member, and a reinforced concrete structural member, and do this experiment and try to plot torque versus angle of twist. And this is how the plot is going to look like. The plain concrete, as the torsional moment is increased, or torque is increased, angle of twist is also going to increase, and it's going to increase, and it's going to reach this point. And after that, in case of plain concrete, at this point, which is denoted with this letter TCR, it is nothing but critical torsional moment. Okay, once you reach the critical value, a diagonal tension crack is going to be formed, and the member is going to fail in tension, because plain concrete is weak in tension. It's going to fail because in plain concrete there is no additional thing that can take care. Once it is cracked, it's going to fail. Whereas for reinforced concrete, you have some steel provided. That steel is going to take over after this. But you can see here, this slope of this line, slope of this torque versus angle of twist, slope of that is nothing but your torsional stiffness. Torsional stiffness is nothing but slope of the line, slope of that curve, torque versus angle of twist. And you can see here, after this, after reaching this critical torque or critical torsional moment, plain concrete member failed, or it is separated or broken into two pieces. Whereas here, since it is reinforced, it's going to have some, the steel is going to come into play, and it's going to stay there for a while. And but you need to make a note here. You can see a torsional stiffness drastically reduces to almost equal to 0. Even if you provide steel, torsional stiffness is not going to be that much. You will not be able to gain. So this is for lightly reinforced, this is for moderately reinforced, this is for heavy reinforcement. Even if you provide heavy reinforcement, you will not be able to gain the original torsional stiffness. So this additional reinforcement is going to, or the reinforcement that you provided is going to help you to just have a safe escape before it actually collapses. Okay, so this point you need to keep in mind. So let's see here what it is written. The torque twist characteristics of torsionally reinforced concrete member is similar to that of plain concrete until the formation of first torsional cracks. That is what we noted. The value of cracking torque, TCR is practically same for plain and reinforced concrete member. The moment at which crack is going to form is going to be almost same for plain and reinforced concrete. It's going to actually depend on your tensile strength of concrete. When cracking develops, there is a large increase in the twist under constant torque due to drastic loss of torsional stiffness. You can see here when after cracking, the angle of twist increases even with a small amount of torque. Okay. When cracking develops, there is a large increase in twist under constant torque due to drastic loss of torsional stiffness. Post-cracking behavior is influenced by the magnitude of torsional reinforcement in the member. Increase of torsional reinforcement will also increase the ultimate torsional strength, and ductile failure is preceded by yielding of steel, which can be realized only at very large angles of twist. However, increase in strength, please make a note of the last statement. Increase in strength is limited since failure due to crushing of concrete may take place prior to yielding of reinforcement in tension. So whatever reinforcement, additional longitudinal reinforcement, additional transverse reinforcement that we are providing is to avoid a sudden failure, but instead of that, we can have some kind of warning before it fails. So this is about the background behind providing the longitudinal reinforcement and transverse reinforcement, and we will see some examples in tomorrow's class. These are nothing but whatever we have seen in code IS 456, that is summarized once again here, and we'll see some examples how to analyze and how to design for this torque in tomorrow's class. In addition, we also need to learn, or you need to do some exercise to calculate the equivalent shear force and equivalent bending moment. That also some examples we'll see in tomorrow's class. Okay, and also there are no special tables given in SP16 for this torque. Because this torsional moment of torque is going to induce shear stresses. So the same table 62 and 63 are going to be used for design using SP16. Okay. Any questions here? Professor Amlan, you want to add something?
No, not at this stage. Maybe tomorrow after going through the steps.
So let me take attendance. Suddenly class strength is today is good. I don't know why. Okay, Professor Amlan, I want to make an announcement on Friday class. Okay, Friday, let's skip the class. Let's have tomorrow's class.
Okay.
And Friday, let's not have class, and we'll meet again next Tuesday. Okay.
Okay.
But tomorrow's class is going to be there.
Fine.
Thank you.